Hi there, Pam Dunn here with Your Infinite Life Training and Coaching Company. Today, I'm going to talk about self-acceptance. So, let's get into this topic because, it's not an easy one to work with, and while it seems so simple, at times it can be very complex. So, self-acceptance begins with looking at how am I talking to myself? Look at what others are saying to you that makes you feel bad about yourself. It does. It makes you feel bad about yourself because you already believe it. Even though logically you may not, for some reason it keeps on coming up and bothering you. Here's another thing that I hear people say. I'm my worst enemy. I've said that myself before too, haven't you? And the thing is, or you've heard it, the thing is about saying that, most of the time when we say it, we wear it like a badge of honor. But just think about it. If I'm saying I'm my worst enemy, how am I treating myself? And so the way to begin doing things differently is to pay attention to what you're saying to yourself and really question it. Genuinely. When we say or hear that small voice that says you're not good enough, is that really true? And the things that you may not be good enough at, are you really interested in? I'm not good enough at finances and doing the books for my company. That's why I have other people do it. But if I beat myself up for not being good enough at it, then it's going to diminish the things that I am good at. And therefore, overall, lower my level of self-acceptance. And when our self-acceptance is low, our creativity is diminished. So begin with that. Start saying kinder things to yourself. Treat yourself like you would one of your friends. I wouldn't tell a friend that they're not good enough as if to judge them. I might say it so that it's encouraging. I might ask, hey, is that something you want to be good at? Because if it is, there's lots of avenues in which you can learn to become better at it. So let's look at a couple examples. I have one that's really recent. So I went to a birthday party yesterday, and I have a personal commitment with myself that I've been staying away from sugar and grains. Well, it was a birthday party, so there was cake, and oh my gosh, you should have seen this cake. So I ate some. And then I had the consequences of it later on with a stomach ache. And the thing is that I really had to pay attention to what I was saying to myself, partially because I knew I would be talking to you today. But the other reason is that, I could practice. I could see that in that not accepting myself, in that talking to myself really harshly, I wasn't doing myself any favors. It wasn't encouraging me to not do it again. It wasn't encouraging me to do what it took to make myself feel better. Because what I noticed is that when I was punishing myself with my words, I felt physically worse. It was astounding. And that as soon as I started talking to myself in a more friendly, kind, caring way, I began to feel a little bit better physically. And eating cake may seem trivial, but at the same time, that way of talking to ourselves ends up, being reflected on someone else. How many times have you said something insensitive? And as soon as you're done saying it, or you notice the impact that it had, you're immediately saying, oh, that wasn't my intent, I'm so sorry. And then you feel bad. See, that's a moment to begin recognizing that that feeling bad about saying something insensitive is quite simply because you care. And so if you can care that much about someone else, are you willing to care that much about yourself and talk to yourself in that way? And begin to acknowledge your courage before you criticize yourself. Acknowledge your courage to even be willing to see that you said something insensitive and it had an impact on somebody that was not the way you would want it to be. You see, we have to challenge those beliefs about ourselves in order to accept ourselves. Now, let's talk a little bit about our insensitive behavior, or the behavior of others, or the belief that if I say I'm accepting of myself, that means that I'm letting myself off the hook, or letting others off the hook for the things that they may say and do that are insensitive or unkind or downright mean. Let's talk about that for a moment, because I am in no way saying that you should accept your unacceptable behavior. But you can accept yourself and know that you were simply behaving in a way that is not the intent of who you are. And so in doing that, we separate our behavior from our actions, from who we are. So let me say that again. We separate our behavior from who we know ourselves to be. So in other words, when I said something insensitive to my friend and I realized it had an impact, in that moment, or even later on when I take a look at it, I can see and recognize that that's not who I am. I'm not mean. I'm not insensitive. But in that moment, I had behavior that was insensitive. And so because I know that isn't who I am, I can self-correct and I can make up for that insensitive behavior. I can say something to my friend, I can apologize, I can do a makeup. There's so much more. You see, my creativity then is expanded. So yes, there are things that we do that are not okay. But remind yourself that it's your behavior that is not acceptable in this moment. You are acceptable. You are a magnificent, loving, compassionate, caring being. We all are, even in the moments that we don't behave that way. We're just not acting that way. So make sure that you love and accept yourself enough to correct that behavior, to look at you're more than that, so you have the creativity to know how to do it different. So that you have the creativity to say, man, this is persistent. I need to look at my beliefs around this. So I want you to have a magnificent week and take some time, and day, of course, and take some time to look at where are you operating from the way you would treat a good friend of yours, and where are you not? And in those places where you're not, take some time to shift that. Take some time to look at your courage before you criticize. What I can tell you from experience, actually, and a lot of people could tell you this from experience, and I want you to experience it, is that the more that we begin to accept who we are innately and take a look at and change the behaviors that don't serve our innate magnificence, the more accepting we are, the more creative we are, the happier we are, and by the way, the less we criticize and hurt others when we don't mean to. So take the time to like and subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and check us out online at www.yourinfinitelifeonline.com. Have a great day.